Welcome to the North East Shadow MPC with Clive Owen LLP, Recognition PR and the Northern Echo. In this session, we talk regularly to business leaders from different sectors about what their business outlook is like and how they think the real Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee should act on the issue of interest rates. I suppose one of the big talking points in November is the budget, which is 23 days from now when we're recording this. If one had to think about uncertainty, I suppose that would be it. What will it mean for business? The mood is a bit sombre. Inflation remains stubborn at 3.8%. Unemployment at a four-year high of 4.8%. On a slightly more positive note, the UK is projected to have GDP growth of around 0.2%, which is better than it's been. Let's talk with our members, see what they think and what the actual real MPC should do at its next meeting. Let's kick off first with my colleague from Clive Owen LLP, Nicola Bellaby. Sentiment first then, Nicola. What do you think?
Hello, Graham. Well, as a firm of chartered accountants, we're extremely busy as you can imagine, because we're having to try and do a lot of planning for our clients, but we don't really know what's going to happen. But on the whole, for the clients, the sentiment's deteriorated, I think, and that's due to this concern over the tax burden. They've already suffered employers NI rises and the increasing corporation tax. And if personal tax rates go up as well, that'll, causes pressure on pay rises for our clients. We've still got above average inflation, as you said, and the growth is weak. Our clients who deliver training and those sort of businesses where costs can be cut by other businesses, they're really suffering. So training, things like that, are disappearing. And our clients aren't wanting to take on new employees. They're not wanting to spend money on capital projects. And these are the things that keep the economy going, of course. So we're really just waiting for 3 weeks' time, as you say, Graham, to see what's going to happen in the budget.
Well, I recognise everything you've said from my business as well, Nicola, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. Let's go to next to Carl Pemberton from Active Chartered Financial Planners. You're actually looking at clients who are investing, Carl. It's their personal wealth you look after. What's your view of the sentiment of your clients and your own business?
Yeah, it's I'm sort of torn on it, Graham, to be fair. I completely echo Nicola's points exactly. I think the nervousness as we lead up to this budget is certainly causing a fair bit of anxiety. And my concern and the concern amongst clients is there is little incentive at the moment, or there certainly seems to be a lack of narrative around an incentive to get people to invest, and then invest certainly in the UK, which seems to be the government's core driver of what they talk about. We've seen clients panic and get nervous ahead of this budget, and certainly we've seen more withdrawals than we have contributions over the last couple of months. Now, that's not necessarily saying it's the government's fault. It's probably the media's fault for driving that narrative, but it does cause quite a bit of unease. And the direction of travel, as Nicola alluded to, does appear to be higher taxes and, less means that will drive future growth, which is a concern.
Carl, if a client of yours withdraws after 55, withdraws their tax-free amount from their pension, I don't know, maybe £100,000, maybe £200,000, what kind of place are they looking to put that money?
Well, this is the dilemma, to be fair, because be careful not to constitute giving advice, but unless someone actually has a purpose for doing it, best advice normally is to actually sit tight. Now, if they're literally just withdrawing that money and paying off a mortgage, or they are just, physically giving it to children or grandkids, if you're actually getting rid of that money or putting it to good use, then fair play. There is no, it's hard to argue against that. If it's just going to sit in the bank, it's not the wisest thing to do, and these decisions can't be reversed.
That's a very interesting point. I mean, I've talked to people myself. I'm not an advisor, so I can give you my experience of it. And the people I've talked to who have withdrawn their money, who are many, by the way, in my age group, they've all put it into gilts, which is funding the government, because the government's giving good returns, but it's not doing anything but fund the government, isn't investing in businesses like Nicola said. All right, Cole, I think we've got your take on it. Thanks very much. Let's now go to Arnab Basu, who's not in vision on this video because he's in transit at the moment, but we want to hear what he has to say from Cromec. Hello, Arnab. What's your sentiment about the economy at the moment?
On one hand, our business is actually flourishing, so we're doing very well. The sectors we're in are actually quite robust, and partly the defense projects that we only got this that I not.
So defence is a key area of spending. The government might be putting tax up, but it is actually going into that area. And we mustn't forget that in the north of England, there are lots in the supply chain.
We are also exposed to macro conditions around the world as well. I mean, with tariffs and currency fluctuations, and nothing of that is stable at the moment because that does create a level of uncertainty. But the more issue that we face as a public listed company is what your previous, was what Carl was saying, that people are sitting on their hands what to do with their money. And the markets have been not very conducive for investments in terms of the structural issues around the market. So as an AIM-listed company, we do suffer as a result of that. And that's a feedback we get all the time from prospective and current shareholders that, they're sitting on their hands at the moment and not taking decisions.
You need more dynamic markets, don't you? People with the appetite to invest. All right. Thank you, Arnab. Stay on the line. That sounded a lot better. Now, over to Ryan from Northern Echo. Obviously, advertising is your market, Ryan. Where do you see the economy and what's happening in your market?
Well, from a media and advertising perspective, we're seeing a cautious but steady picture. Growth is modest, and inflation, as we've spoken about, is stubbornly above target. So most businesses we find are prioritising stability over expansion. If we look at that, obviously we cover the UK from a marketing and media perspective, but if we look at that just in the northeast market, it's holding up well. Especially amongst manufacturers, education providers, local service firms, etc. Although it's the smaller businesses that are really remaining cost conscious. So really, it's confidence rather than cost that feels like the real challenge. When businesses can plan with certainty, they're willing to invest. Whether that be investing in people, in growth, or in marketing. So really, a period of stability, in my opinion, would do more to rebuild confidence than making any sudden directional changes.
Okay, well, thank you, Ryan. We'll come back for your vote in a minute. Now, let's look at two people who are in property in some different degrees, or in services, rather. First of all, Kevin Brown from Pacifica Services. You're supposed servicing your business repairs things, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So we repair about 400,000 appliances a year. So we're very busy every day fixing people's washing machines and the like that go wrong. So revenue is stable. We've seen moderate growth through this year. The big things that have happened are we have now completed the transition of our contact centre to Manila. And that's a direct result of the decision the Chancellor took last year.
This is offshoring jobs.
It is, yeah. So and that is to mitigate that additional cost that she introduced. So I'm very interested to see what plans that she's got for this month, to see whether I have to do any more mitigation. From the consumer's point of view, we're seeing unit sales of appliances being pretty stable, but more and more customers taking out insurance to protect themselves against the cost of breakdown. So we've seen our unit sales on insurance double since April, and unit sales of appliances have been stable. So it tells you customers are trying to protect themselves against the costs of repair.
Okay, well, that's very helpful. Bit of an interesting take there, Kevin. Thank you very much. Next, we've got to go to Katrina. Katrina's from Constructing Excellence. People who are members of Constructing Excellence are in the construction business in the Northeast, from small builders to large. Katrina, what's your membership think of the economy at the moment?
Good afternoon, Graham. I think that there's a bit of a mixed bag at the moment. I think we've seen a very small growth rate in construction, but it as I say, it is a bit of a mixed bag there. Obviously, there's positive signs with regard to infrastructure and also for regeneration projects. However, we do face a lot of pressure with regard to workforce. We're still struggling with regard to getting a full workforce in place. I think that an increase in the base rate and depending on what happens with the budget coming up shortly, will have a huge impact on our industry. So it's trying to make sure that we try and become as stable as possible and keep a sustainable growth going. So as I say, although there's shoot, shall we say, we are in a position where things may become quite difficult.
All right. Well, Katrina, that's very interesting. The other thing, that if the government is going to put tax up, at least to a certain extent, they're going to spend some of it on construction and related projects. But the lead time for these big projects is quite high, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think one of the other things with regard to that is the Procurement Act as well that came in 2023. I think that has an impact as well, because a lot of the projects that are going through at the moment, especially in public sector, are going through frameworks rather than the new Procurement Act. So we are seeing a bit of a downfall with regard to new stuff coming through to use the new Procurement Act. Nobody wants to be first, unfortunately. And I think that is having an impact as well.
Wow, very interesting take. Thanks for that, Katrina. Let's move to Craig Malarkey from Swinburne Madison. The lawyers are on. Hello, Craig. Now, don't just spoiling it. We know the lawyers can get involved. And what have you got to say about the economy?
No, thanks, Graham. There's from two perspectives, really. So from our own business's perspective, we're seeing quite a period of positivity. Year-on-year revenue is up. We are seeing, we're heavily investing in our people and technology. And that is something sort of as a business we're committed to doing. Obviously, there are additional costs, particularly in relation to employment costs that, as one of the panel mentioned, through last year's changes that have obviously been an impact on our business, but we've continued to invest in that. And as I say, we are looking to grow headcount and sort of, let's say, match the increase in revenue. The other side of that coin, though, Graham, is what our clients are feeding back to us. And I think that's a slightly different perspective. I think there's a lot of frustration with clients at the moment. And I think what they're seeing is putting any kind of political commentary aside, they want to see a growth in the economy. They want to be able to invest in their business and feel confident to do so. And I think one of the flip sides in my own personal area of specialism is M&A, transactional work. And what we're seeing is a lot of clients, sort of SMEs particularly, accelerating their exit strategies.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's great news for us as lawyers. And, we have seen an influx in increased activity in the lead up to this budget, not to the same degree, I think, as last year and to the tax year end last year. But when people are making differing choices to what I think they probably would have done 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Maybe.
Are you an LLP?
We are, yes.
Are you worried like I am about the prospective marginal tax rate of 56%?
Yeah, I mean, we're expecting, obviously, who knows whether that will be implemented. I think there is probably an expectation that is something that is on the agenda for Rachel Reeves in a few weeks. But I think speaking to other professional advisors, sort of in the sector, there's going to be a lot of planning and potentially a lot of changes coming as a consequence of that, shall we say.
Well, I'm in that club as well. I understand. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. Very upbeat. Thank you. Nick Pope from Premier Water Tech and Environment. Hello.
Hello, Graham. Yes, well, interestingly, from all the comments, we kind of are a little bit in that area. So a year ago, we've been a manufacturer in the UK for many, many years. A year ago, we decided to pivot the business away from manufacturing. So we ceased manufacturing a year ago to concentrate on service and installing the products that we make. So that side of things, the business is performing very strongly. What we do is obviously off mains wastewater treatment. So it's the kind of product where it's not really a discretionary purchase. If you have a problem, you need to fix it fairly quickly. We also acquired a tankering business
Oh, it's good.
that's very complementary to that new kind of business model. And as you say, it's been quite performing quite strongly. So in that regard, it was the right decision for us. The manufacturing side of things we found was very low margin, very competitive, very price conscious. So yeah, I would say that's helped. Clearly, we're affected, like everybody has mentioned, in terms of the increased costs of people for NI and so on. But because we're now in a kind of higher part of the value chain, we can absorb that a bit more easily than we could in the past.
Okay, so you're generally positive. You're not full of doom and gloom today. Excellent.
No, definitely not. Probably a year ago I would have been, but
Right, there we are. All right, Nick, we're going to take that. We like that. Well, we're going to conclude though. He generally brings things down a bit. We've got Martin Pullen from FRP. How are you, Martin? Are you an LLP, by the way?
We do provide our services through an LP. So yes, I'll be watching that with interest.
Scars on your back, yes.
Yeah. Well, I would say, politically, I think that's probably relatively savvy. I don't think there's too many people on the street that are going to feel too sorry for the lawyers and accountants and the doctors that they perceive as the higher earners, etc. So it's probably a softer target than maybe some of the others. From our side of things, on the sort of transactional activity, the corporate finance, the sort of selling or assisting to buy businesses, yeah, that's been relatively busy, again, with decisions or processes being accelerated slightly, with a bit of nervousness around the budget. But again, I'd echo what Craig said, not as much as last year's budget, for sure. In terms of general sort of signs of distress, I would describe the region as being still, I suppose, resilient would be, I would say, the best word. In terms of the distressed businesses that have been coming in to see us, that is down based on this time last year. So I would expect it to continue in that way. I do, we benefit in some sectors in terms of the advanced manufacturing and tech in the region, which seems to be performing well. But it's the nervousness around the budget, which I think has meant a number of the businesses that we have advised in and around their group structure are kind of waiting and seeing seems to be the route. And again, we need to see, we talked about this, I think, Graham, when the Labour government came in, the budget for growth, which none of us would have predicted the budget would have been structured in the way it was. Is this now time to reset?
Yeah. And the growth has been bubbling along, but it hasn't been dramatic. You can't say there wasn't any growth, but at the same time, it's got back from America, and
it's the problem with most of the G7, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you look
apart from America.
Well, yeah, until the Trump government, obviously.
Well, I've just been back from America, and I've seen some evidence of some interesting things. But anyway, US rates are 3.75%. They went down last week. ERB rates, European rates are 2%. So what do we think ours should be? Let's just go to a full screen of people, please. I'm going to ask for a show of hands, but before I do that, Arnab isn't in vision. So Arnab, are you going to go for putting rates up, keeping them the same, or putting them down?
Keeping them the same.
Keeping them the same. Right, by show of hands, everyone else. Show of hands, who wants to put rates up? 0. Who wants to put rates down? Oh, that's going to be who wants to keep them the same. Everyone was wanting to keep them the same. Interesting, very interesting. Thank you very much. I was going to ask everyone's different views, but let's just very quickly, one line each. You'll probably end up saying the same things. I'll start with you, Arnab.
Yeah, the inflation is still high. I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, which could trigger all sorts of events at the moment. So it's probably prudent to keep the rate the same.
Okay, Martin Pullen.
Consumer spending still seems strong. There's a budget coming. It's a wait and see for me.
Okay, wait and see point. Nick?
Yeah, I would echo Arnab's comments totally.
Okay, Ryan?
Police clearly too fragile. Growth is flat and households are under pressure. a move either way could create more harm than good.
More harm than good. Excellent. So caution. All right. Moving on, Carl.
Yeah, similar to what's been said, I would keep the 0.25% reduction in the locker to see what comes out of the budget at the end of the month.
Okay. Katrina?
I totally agree with everybody else. I think we've got to be sustainable at the moment, and I think just wait and see what happens. So keep.
All right. Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, we need to wait and see what comes out of the budget.
You're wait and see, man. And then go with Craig.
Yeah, I think we'd like to encourage a reduction. So there was some thought of that, but I think given the proximity to the budget and some wider events internationally, I think you just have the prudence is just to wait and see.
Okay, that's fine. So you're wait and see, man, as well. Nicola?
Yes, just got to wait for the budget. Hopefully in a month's time, I might be saying something different and wanting to reduce.
All right. Well, look, it's been a very interesting conversation. There's been some it's not a uniform gloom, but there's also some serious problems that have been discussed today. I'd like to thank everyone on the Shadow MPC. We'll return ahead of the next budget rate, interest rate decision of the Bank of England. Let's see what they do on this session.